Hello, good afternoon. My name is Marcelo and I'm from Brazil. First, I'd like to thank Carlo, the organization, and second, to say that it's a pleasure to stay with all of you today. My presentation, Paths to the Construction of Higher Education in Times of Savage Capitalism, is based on my master's thesis and my doctoral research. We live in a period of flagrant contradictions. Our generation witnesses a period of profound transformations, most of them still incomprehensible to us. Not only did modernity bring to the new and the better, it has also brought great challenges to society in economic, political, social, cultural, environmental, and in particular in educational levels. The profound socio-historical transition imposes on us an urgent need to understand the meaning and potential of education. The university now has a leading role because it is responsible for training professionals for the job market, as well as producing knowledge through research with which are viewed to certain society. It should prioritize citizenship education, which includes not only enabling professional development, but also making students aware of the world they live in, that is, being critical, reflective, and proactive. The university should be a place of clarification, reflection, critical view, and knowledge building. It should never be subjected to the dictates of the economic regime, as well as any other power or influence that might subvert the meaning of its practices. In the past, the many attacks came from the state and the church. What about today? The capitalist policy, where profit is the main goal, higher education today is, all over the globe, hostage to capital, which means it is focused on training qualified labor force required to ensure production. The point at issue is not forming professionals, but how this is being done. It would be no exaggeration to say that many universities today omit the production of knowledge and dedicate almost exclusively to the production of it. In flexible curricula, the use of educational packages silence the teacher and many other practices that reduce the power of the university are becoming commonplace and require rethinking and change. In recent years, mass investments have been made in private education in Brazil, especially in higher education. We could mention companies such as Lorry, Croton, Anhanguera, Estácio, Abril, and Pearson. These institutions operate worldwide and have partnerships with private equity investment groups, responsible for giving them financial boosts and preparing them for going public on the stock exchange, with the aim of expanding their profit enormously. The huge potential growth of private higher education in Brazil is considered a golden opportunity for international investors due to a number of factors, including the urgent need to a skilled workforce, the federal government student loan system, among others. All educational groups listed above trade shares on the São Paulo Stock Exchange, Bovespa. They have business throughout the world and operate in various market segments. Education for them is, no doubt, another real possibility of big profit. The strategies of some private universities to attract students are inexhaustible. More affordable tuition, scholarships, free learning materials, and free laptop computers, great deals and discounts. On the other hand, the education provided is of inferior quality. there is no scientific production or research. Teachers are underpaid, facilities are inadequate, etc. In the wake of the contradictions between the objectives and practice of higher education, the teaching profession has been devalued not only by institutions which impose heavy workloads, limited resources, low wages, etc., but also by students and society. Fatigue, stress, and physical and mental exhaustion are common among teachers nowadays, a phenomenon called burnout. What is at stake is the direction university is taking. The way it is organized in Brazil shows that it is losing its character as a cultural and educational institution and becoming an economic unit. And if so, it's necessary to redefine university. The profit-oriented market also aims for control through a totalitarian vision as a means to achieve concentration of capital and ideology. The major problem, not explicit but real, is the colonization of minds, a process the philosopher and socialist Theodor Adorno terms dominated and partial formation. The market economy can be considered responsible for changing the direction of the university, causing major changes in structure, curricula, programs, and activities, a reform that directs students to production process, a policy aimed at bringing in profit. It is extremely necessary to reflect on the future of education once it is a creative process, not a business. It must prepare people for life and not only for the job market. Ways to confront and overcome. Under this scenario, it is evident the urgent need to break the cycle imposed by capital. Unfortunately, we know how difficult the effective implementation of such a plan is. Meanwhile, it is our duty to join forces with those affected by the cultural and historical contingency to perform in-depth analysis and reflections on the situation, continually reiterate the allegations and resist proactively. Being docile, silent, and inert will only perpetuate subservience and oppression in society. In the book Pedagogy of Autonomy, Paulo Freire points to the importance of facing obstacles once he firmly believes in the real possibility of overcoming them. After all, he argues, we are writers of history and we must make our position clear. The work of Freire indicates that it is not in resignation, but in defiance of injustices we assert ourselves. Then, there is the possible transformative role of this school, forming autonomous people. The big problem is when schools adapt to a capitalist ideology, what Freire calls a banking vision of education, nullifying learners' creative abilities as well as their capacity for reflection. Educators concerned with society and its mission can't accept this situation. As educators, we must realize the possibility of change and reflect about it. We should not resign ourselves to the road of injustice in which we live. Of course, this transformation will require time, effort, resources, patience, and mobilization. Hence the importance of a critical, action-oriented education based on collective commitment as opposed to the banking education. We must be aware that education is provided to make transformation, to open dialogues, and to develop thinking. A liberating education, distinctive feature of Paulo Freire's pedagogy, is a practice that aims at the deliverance of man from any kind of oppression, the sharing of power, and the eradication of authoritarianism. Paulo Freire's term banking education refers to the education that takes place in a vertical direction, top-down, for someone who knows to someone who doesn't, from superior people to inferior people. A passive knowledge transfer, seeing students as a store of information without full consciousness. Freire correctly argues that this practice is not to educate, but to remove from reality. The use of educational packages and banking education are major challenges in the curriculum of many schools and universities around the world today. Obviously, there is no education without a syllabus, but to manipulate it in a mechanical way can be a big mistake in the teaching-learning process. A Freirean concept that combats these practices is called dialogicity. That is, a dialogue held in a horizontal direction which allows a redefinition of reality. The issues surrounding the education can't be debated by a select few. They should be widely discussed and planned by members of the school community. That is, principals, coordinators, teachers, students, parents, and staff, and other people who wish to participate and offer help. Dialogicity requires listening and understanding. Teachers should not be the only voice in a classroom. Constructive dialogue requires empathy, collaboration, and commitment on the part of those involved, always encouraging the understanding of reality. Dialogue should also be contextualized, requiring intellectual humility, respect, and consideration for others. Criticism is another essential feature of Freire's work. It relates to a critical participation in a reality, being able to grasp contradictions and conflicts, being active in an emancipatory context, always wondering why a particular task is performed. Freire claims that education is a political act that has intentionality. Education is never a neutral practice. According to him, education has an ethical dimension in which man is a relational being. Another central feature of Freire's work is joy. Freire states that knowledge discovery is a joy. That beauty of knowledge is that it permeates accuracy and joy. Education must be something lively and vibrant. Parallel to this Freirean feature is the idea of hope, in which learners not only expect things to happen, but they make things happen. Another Freirean trademark regards the promotion of autonomy, something that happens individually and collectively through organized and collective struggles. It is the result of disruption and confrontation. Autonomy is not something given, is not granted. It is an achievement. Through it, freedom and emancipation are possible on different levels, in a constant search process that requires awareness, effort, the understanding of reality, the development of new skills, commitment, and responsibility. It happens with the tension between freedom and authority, through dialogue and ethics, in a relentless pursuit. Educators who aim to increase their degree of autonomy must possess a strong sense of personal responsibility for their mission through continuous reflection and analysis of the cognitive and affective aspects involved in the teaching process. Freire states that autonomy is built with time and dedication through countless experience and choices. The process of building autonomy also requires permanent formation of teachers. It would be a misunderstanding of thinking that education ends when we receive a diploma. As unfinished beings, we must always move forward in the humanization process and an ongoing process of knowledge building. Permanent formation is an ontological process for all and for life which begins with the understanding of reality. It develops the cognitive, social, political, and emotional sides of people, bridging the gap between theory and practice, guided by the action, reflection, action process. It means to critically evaluate our practice with a view to change and improvement whenever necessary. Formation should not be confused with training or with retraining courses. Permanent formation is based on different assumptions about education. It is not about new content, techniques, and technologies. Many teachers are mistaken as to the meaning and importance of permanent education, believing that it refers to courses conducted outside of school, in universities, specialized schools, etc. Pedagogical and planning meetings, for example, should be opportunities for teacher formation, as they are in their place of action, where it is possible to have a clearer perception of reality. With conscious, objective, and intentional practice as the ones presented so far, we can raise our degree of autonomy, having faith and hope in the possibility of real change. We affirm that the world needs to break free from an intolerable situation in which the capital is the villain. The change can't be only an object of desire. It must happen in a real and urgent manner. And I finished with these words. Never again Auschwitz. It was the barbarism of education strives against. Thank you so much.